there! I am going to paint today a pretty pink starfish. This is the last page of my sketchbook and I'm super excited to get it finished. And I probably will be making another one the same size because I love this size. I did try to talk and paint as I was going along, but I noticed as the painting progressed, I stopped talking. So I'm going to do a voiceover. The first thing I'm going to do is just drop in some basic colors of the stones under the water. I'm going to paint around the starfish. Now, another way to do this is to paint just over top of the starfish, but I really wanted that bright, vibrant pink. And I was afraid that the pink going into the rocks and such was just going to look a little weird. So this is my way of doing it. I could have been adventurous and tried the other way, but I didn't want to mess up my page in my sketchbook. So, whenever when family and friends visit me in Maine, I like to take them to a place called Tidal Falls. And at low tide, there's an area out in the middle of the water where there's a bunch of rocks. And so it looks like falls out in the water. It's not like a traditional waterfall that we're used to seeing where it's a high cliff and beautiful waterfalls cascading over. This is like a lump of falls all in one area, and it's really pretty. Plus, it's really pretty because the water is just this amazing green color. It's just absolutely gorgeous. At high tide, there are seals that hunt and fish and play, and I love watching the seals, little heads popping up out of the water. So it's just such a lovely place that I like to take visitors and family and friends, and I like to sit out there too. The areas at low tide, you can see these pink starfish sometimes. You can't see them all the time. I don't know what it is. I don't know what makes them want to come closer to shore. If it's it's probably the warmer water. I really don't know, but they're adorable. I love them. I took this photo and I decided to paint it. I took the photo a few years ago and I'm finally painting it. So you can see where I am dropping in some colors. I'm keeping it very natural, green, orange, yellow, I'm keeping it very, very natural of what the bottom of the water is going to look like. Those three little shapes I put in there, those are the snails. There are snails everywhere, and so I definitely needed a few snails in there. Right now I'm going to lift out a little bit of the paint to represent where the bigger rocks are going to be. I don't know what I'm explaining here. Probably explaining the rocks and how I'm going to approach them. I kind of intended to put more color in to the area, but it was drying really quickly, and I probably could have wet the paper all over and dropped it in, but for some reason I didn't do that. But that's okay, because it works out beautifully in the end. It is amazing how quickly these turn into rocks once I get started. And there's a cute little rock that's kind of like tucked in between the arms of the starfish that are at the bottom of the page right there. I am using the Holbein watercolor paints, and then I'm going to pull out my Prismacolor pencils in a little bit. The rock with the two snails that is up the upper right hand corner that I'm in right now is casting a shadow on the bottom of the water and also the starfish. The starfish is underwater, and that rock with the two snails is up higher. So I need it to look like it's definitely up higher. So I'm going to try my best to cast that shadow on the starfish like it is in the picture, but it's kind of difficult. But I'm gonna do my best. Now I'm dropping in some more color for rocks. I don't really know what the rock shapes are going to be yet. That's going to come later. Actually, it's coming right now. I lied. It's been a few days since I painted this, and I'm doing a voiceover a few days later. It's tough. I'm making sure I drop some of that opera pink in because the starfish is that opera pink, or will be soon. And I want to make sure that it's cohesive. I have been using the opera pink all along, but I just really want it to be in there. I'm lightly adding the rock color in the front. And then I'm going to add the texture of the taller rock. It definitely looks like it's got ridges in it. And I'm also going to put some underneath the water. And it's also going to be representative of ripples in the water. There's also some like algae growing on it. So that's what that green spot is. Now here I put in the shadow from the little arm foot thingy on the starfish. And I left a little sliver of light coming through. I do not know why. I look at this later and I'm thinking, why did I do that? And yeah, sure, I could fix it now, but it's not going to be in the video. So I just left it. It is still like that in my sketchbook. I'm not going to change it. It's kind of like when I look at that, I'll just think, it was a learning experience. It's fine. I am using my brush to scrub out a little bit of paint because I got a little willy-nilly crazy with painting around the starfish. And here comes the pretty pink. It's so lovely. They really are this pink. It's just so pretty in the wild. They do have signs all over at Tidal Falls that ask you to not pick up the starfish. Don't touch them. Don't pick them up. Because it's kind of cruel. You know, they don't want to be out of the water if they don't want to be out of the water. Leave them alone. Look at that. Look how pretty that is. That's such a pretty color. I don't use opera pink very often. But now that I'm mainly working in my sketchbooks, I'm more willing to use colors that might be fugitive. Because I don't really paint for, you know, the joy of putting something on the wall anymore. I have enough on my wall. I love my sketchbooks because I can pull down my sketchbooks off a shelf and flip through them and remember what I was doing and how I felt when I painted them. That I really don't pull out a piece of paper and paint on it anymore on my desk. It's always a sketchbook. It's funny how we evolve over time because I didn't used to be that way. I have a stack of papers of paintings that are just sitting there and I don't really look at them because it's not easy to look at them, but sketchbook, oh yeah, it's easy. I am doing my best to add the texture that is on the starfish. I think it's actually working out really well. It's a little bit different than how it looks, but I think it represents it pretty nicely. You know, they have all those little teeny tiny little tendrils all over them that help them move and help them gather food, and they're really, really cool. But yeah, I just dropped in some paint and let it flow and made little spots, and I think it looks cool. And I'm going to add the shadow to these snails. and they have, you know, little ridges from when they grow. So I'm trying my best to put those in there too. And then here I'm trying to splay the bristles of my brush to add texture to the rocks, because they're not just flat one color rocks. They've got tons of tiny little dark spots all over it. And it worked out really well. This was a great technique for that. That snail got a little darker than I intended, but I wanted to make sure all the little ridges were on there. It is a pretty dark snail in the painting. Both of those are in the upper right hand corner. But when I pull out the Prismacolor pencils later, I will be able to bring it back. All right, now I'm going to drop in some shadows into those rocks. I'm mixing up a dark, and I am just going for it. And look how quickly that section turns into rocks. I've done this before, and it just amazes me how quickly it turns. I absolutely love it. I love that technique. I'm adding a little bit more of texture with different colors to the rocks to make them more interesting. Now that I know where they're living, the rocks are living, I can enhance them. Here comes a more intense shadow for where that rock is keeping the light from getting to the bottom of the water and the starfish. I almost said sunfish. That's a completely different critter. I had been using the Lindsay Wyrick watercolor brushes from Craftimo, and I realized that the texturing I was doing was probably hard on that brush, so I switched over to the Mimic Kolinsky from Jerry's Artorama. It's a little bit firmer, I think. I really enjoy both style brushes, but this one I'm using now, it's a little bit more worn, so I'm not afraid of damaging as much. Okay, so here I'm adding the shadow to the starfish that is being cast from that bigger rock in the upper right. And I'm putting a little bit more texture on the limbs that are not under the shadow, or in shadow, I should say. All right, those rocks. I decided to add some water and blot up highlights, and it's going to make them look more rounded or oblong, or I don't know, just textured or shaped, I should say. I'm shaping them by dropping in water and dabbing it up. And I'm doing it without too much thought because I'm just kind of winging it. And oh my gosh, not thinking about it too hard really, oh, look at that. It really made a difference. Gorgeous. I love those rocks. And then I decided I need a little bit hint at rocks in the shadowed area. Even though it's shadowed, there's still going to be a little bit of light popping up from some of the rocks. And I think that made a beautiful painting doing that. Okay, time for the colored pencils. I feel like I've done everything I want to do with watercolor. So let's pull out the pencils and see if I can get more detail there. Using colored pencils is something I don't do very often, and I want to do it more because the last thing I did, there were 3 strawberries sitting on their sides. It turned out so pretty when I added a little bit of colored pencil to get the shininess of the strawberries and such. And I thought, I really want to do that more often. So here I am. I'm giving it a try. And I think it turned out lovely. I'm starting by putting some detail on the starfish so it looks more fuzzy. Like I mentioned earlier, they had the little tendrils that help them walk and grab their food. So I'm doing what I can to add those little spots. Now, I will say I kind of did it backwards because really, I could have used a lighter color to show them highlighted, but instead I used a darker color and reserved the highlights. It's kind of like negative painting, but with colored pencils. But I wasn't like too precious about it. I just went in and kind of ran with it, and it worked. It totally worked. The texture of the paper actually really helped with the technique and making it look like I reserved highlights without actually doing it. A few weeks ago, I was chatting with my friend well, friends. We have a little chat group. But Shana Jackson, who is Caution Artist at Play on YouTube, beautiful colored pencil artist. Go check her out. She had a starfish painting, or not painting, she had a starfish reference photo. And she's like, oh my gosh, I really need to paint that. I said, I have one too. I need to paint it too. So I challenged her. I said, hey, let's both paint them in July. Let's do it. So Shana, did you paint yours yet? If not, get hop into it. I mean, pressure, but no pressure. Love you, Shana. A little bit of extra colored pencil to those snails. Love them. Think they turned out great. I need to add highlights still, but I will do that shortly. There they go. That little extra yellow made them pop. And since I put it on the snails, I'm going to put it on the rocks too. And I love that as well. Especially that rock right there that has the yellow and the orange on it. Of course, orange is my favorite color, so that would be why I love that. But it's my favorite rock on there. I also wanted to make that algae look a little bit more like algae. It was a little tough. It just looks like a green spot, but that's okay. I know it's algae. Do you see how textured that is really starting to look? I think it's awesome. And when I look at my sketchbook now, sitting over there next to me, that starfish really looks like it's popping off the page. I just absolutely love it. The addition of white is always one of my favorite parts. It just really adds a little extra oomph to it. And then I wanted to add ripples to the water of where the water meets the little rock right there, and it's rippling slightly. I'd love to know what you think. Looking at my painting here where it's almost done, and my reference photo. Do you think that's something that you would attempt to paint, or would you look at that and think, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start? I'm really curious what you think, because there was definitely a time where I would say, oh, I don't know the first place to start with that. I'm not sure how I can pull that off. And I love that now in my little artsy journey of mine, I really feel like I can do more than I used to. It's a great feeling. And if you are feeling that way, I hope that you start to feel that way as well, where you look at something and you think, yeah, I can do that. I think I can figure that out. So this is the next morning, and I realized I needed a little bit more shadow, and I also needed a little bit of more of the ripple, because it looks like the starfish is above the water, and that's not the case. The starfish is under the water. So I'm gonna extend some of those ripples on top of the starfish to really push it down, make it look like it's under the water. Now the water technically came up part way of the rocks that are below, but I didn't want to mess with it. I was afraid that it wouldn't really portray what I wanted. So I just left those ripples the way they were, and that was it. So this was my sweet little pretty pink starfish painting in my last page of my sketchbook. If you enjoy this kind of video, please like and subscribe. It would really help my channel, and have a great day. Bye-bye.